Hi, everybody, and welcome to Gasparilla Festival of the Arts. I am live at the Tampa River Center, and I am with Lissa Hatcher. Lissa, tell us about yourself.
Hi, I am a storyteller, surrealist. I do mostly photography, digital work, and some paint and writing. That's pretty much me.
So you do everything.
No, I don't do everything. I was watching Glass Blower earlier. I don't do that.
So we're going to learn a little bit about what you do by watching your demo video, and then we'll do some live Q&A, and we'll see if any of our audience has some questions for you.
Yay, exciting.
Hi guys, I'm Lissa Hatcher. I am a digital artist, and photographer, and writer, so you'll see some like scraps of paper laying around. I actually did a cleanup review, so I'm going to talk about some of the things that I do in my work today. We have a really short time, so we're going to get into it. I want to tell you a little bit about my gear. So this is my reach camera, my baby, I call it, but it's not my monster. And it's the smaller of the cameras I have. This is a Nikon 700. It's my reach baby. I use it because it's lighter and easier to manage, and it isn't so expensive that if I fall and roll in the muck, I will cry. Well, I'll cry because it's my baby, but I'll be able to get over it. This is my black 700 leggings jacket, and you know who you are and how you say it. This is also a monster, so what it does is it allows me to, instead of painting one of these, which I call a rock, which is an outfit, I am able to paint a pin, which is the best thing ever. It saves my heart and soul from a lot. So that's that. This is my spray. And there's nothing wrong with any PC, but I chose print. So that's my basic tools. I'm also Photoshop. So that is basically how I get things done. So let's talk about my process a little bit. So I am a conceptual photographer, taking care of work. And so what that means is I have a thought in my head and then I go into street. So this is an example of some of my sketches. And so this is an optical shoot that I did a couple of years ago. And here's the thing is it takes me a couple of years to actually produce these prints as I once I'm done shooting. So once I'm got everything on here, I have an idea of what I want to do, what prompts I might need. I will start building the gathering, and I'll cast it, I will costume it, separate shots, get these makeup, hair, and have the permits to be where I want to be. All of that stuff gets done at this stage. So the cool thing about this shoot is we got to build my studio. And a lot of times people come into my space and say, oh my gosh, that looks so real. And I say, well, that's because it was. And so I'm going to show you some behind the scenes images of that. So this is the teacup after it was built, and she's having her teacup thing. And this was the day that it drove to Huntington Island to be shot. And if you're local to us, then you know that Huntington Island is a youth beach local. And it's a reserve, which is great. And it's kind of wild and loose, a lot like my octopus. So this is the original shot of the octopus. Her name's Shawnee. And again, shot it in the island. So this is kind of just what it would look like as a base or a plate, what I call a plate image, which means that it has nothing done to it, it's just the way that it is. I'm going to show you the after on that. This is after I've had the ability to paint it. And what you'll notice is the sky and the birds and the tentacles, and those were actually all shot on Huntington Island as well. So again, this is the before and the after. So here's the thing. I Sanctuary, which is local to Tampa Bay in the Tampa Bay area. And if you want to go for an outing with your kids or just somebody you like, it's really great. It's outside, and you can go and donate to them because they are. They are the reason that we have this piece, or that I have this piece called Pickle, and this is her very good friend, and she is feeding him, which we're in a fantasy world, so we don't want to be in our wildlife, but in a fantasy world, that's okay. So I also did another image called Pelicans on Parade, and I'm working on that. So I'm going to walk you through a little bit of what that looks like. So this is the blank image, the plate image, as I would put it. So we have this plate image, and it is just as it was shot. And so she's supposed to be with an invisible man, and she's supposed to have a parade of pelicans. So I would come in and I would write notes and say the sky needs to be level, and that there needs to be the pelicans and the teacups, and I would have to take his head out, and then the sky would be done. So I would write notes. Once I did that, I would start putting in pelicans and deciding where they go. So, you know, and what kind of pelicans we are using. These are the nice little brown pelicans, and we'll go and start just kind of placing them where they belong. So the cool thing about these guys is they were shot in the same time of year as the other shot was. So they do look quite lovely. So once I kind of get that idea, this is what that next image would look like. As you can see, I've removed his head, he's now invisible. So my pelicans are going in the right place. And I'm just going to go in and make myself some more notes where I'm just deciding what space I need to see her cheek. I need to be able to see her eyes, so I'm going to write myself some notes, and then I'm going to make sure that I go through and do that. So this is what that image is where it's at right now. It's on parade. And as you can see, I put in teacups, and I'm taking out his head and adding the collar, and I'm just kind of going in and I will slowly paint this out. So I'm going to do about 10 seconds of me painting. So as you can see, I want to put in a sky. So I've done that. But the sky goes over everything, and I don't want it to do that. So I will come in and start way up. So that I'm going to go in and I'm going to take out this layer so that you can actually see it. And so I will just be brightening up these birds and everything to do, bringing them forward. You can kind of see that coming forward. This is the paint part of my dog. And I just would literally, I'm doing this really loud so that you can see it. But it's just chiseling away that side so that it is off these images, off of these pelicans. And I'll go in on my shadows and just slowly bring the image forward. And that is slowly, one bit at a time. Some images take me, they can take years, some of them take weeks. It just depends. But thanks for being in my space today, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.
Thank you for sharing that. It's amazing to see the behind the scenes. A lot of people don't realize you're an award-winning photographer. How did you jump from straight photography into this digital world and doing these amazing, cool images?
So I was actually a music major and completely by accident. So if you rewind time really quickly back to 9/11, my husband was on a ship. He had been gone for 6 months. And when 9/11 happened, they turned him around. And I had no idea when I would see him again. Couldn't talk to him. They cut off all communications. And the weird thing was, is I was staying with my in-laws because my children were very young and I wanted them to have family. Um, so what happened was they had sold their house. I was supposed to be moving with my husband and he didn't come home. So I was homeless. So I ended up staying with some friends. I ended up traveling some. I ended up in New Orleans. And I borrowed my mother's camera that had been left to her by my uncle and spent about 20 hours in the cemetery shooting images. When I returned from that trip, I went to take all the rolls of film to have them developed. And of course, you can't have 20 rolls of film developed in an hour. So when I came back, all my images were all over the counter. And they were like, you're an amazing photographer. And I was like, no, I'm a musician. I don't know what you're talking about. So long story short, I found myself being a photographer, doing that work. I won awards, was a speaker. I enjoyed that, but when my husband, military again, moved me and I lost my thriving business, which a lot of us know what that feels like right now, unfortunately, it can be overwhelming. And Tampa is very big. If you're new, it's very big. And so I found myself feeling really overwhelmed and lost, confused. I didn't know how to start over and I actually put my camera down. So this is the thing is I was quietly doing artwork for myself. I wasn't putting it out there, even though the people close to me were really wanting me to do that. And when I was on Facebook, you see the little ads in the right hand corner, and I saw an ad for emerging artist program for Gasparilla, and I was like, well, let's just see what that is. And I clicked on it, and the deadline was that day. And so, of course, I was like, well, how am I going to do this? How is that going to happen? And I was producing artwork a little bit at that time, but again, like it was just a hobby. It was something I did on top of photography. I did get in to the emerging artist program. And the day I showed up, I thought, well, I won't sell a single piece and it'll just be fun and I will maybe learn something. I sold almost every single piece. People hugged me all day long. People were crying and telling me, this is what you're supposed to do. Why are you not doing it? And I was like, I don't know why I'm not doing it. I didn't know it was a thing I could do. And fast forward, here we are. That's kind of how that happened.
So I love it. So you started as an emerging artist, and how many years ago was that?
8, I believe.
8.
I believe 2000.
Yeah, so you've been around Gasparilla Festival Dance for quite some time now.
Yeah.
Great.
I didn't realize that
We're-
until you asked me. Someone asked me, and I was like, oh, I don't. And I started doing math, and I had to go look in my computer to see when it was. And I was just, wait, what? 8 years? What? Yes.
How has your work grown since you started as an emerging artist?
So I don't know if it's grown in the normal way, but what it has done is it's changed. And by that I mean my projects have gotten bigger. I haven't left photography completely. I still do a little of that. But what it's done over the last 8 years is I am allowed, I guess. I've given myself permission to take on projects that are over the top, and I've even dabbled into live performance art. Because I write and I write music and all of that fun stuff. So I've been able to start, like I did a huge show called Ashes to Ashes, which was a Halloween show, and basically like wrote all the music, was working with other artists. I had a huge crew, and was able to do all the, obviously, the promotional work and the design work, because I do that as well. but the cool thing is several artists from Gasparilla or people I've met at Gasparilla helped make that happen. Because for me, Gasparilla is local. So it's just over the years, and you win awards, and um you meet people being out. Like, gallery work is amazing and I love it, but being at live festivals, so many people have embraced what I do, that they want to help, and it makes it easier to get bigger things done. So it's just a whole world opening thing to put yourself out there in that way.
So what are some of your biggest inspirations for your subject? Where do you come up with these ideas?
Okay, so people, which in pandemic time has been miserable. And I'm pretty sure I'm feral at this point and need to be let out. So inspiration is, as an artist, that we always say that we're inspired by other artists, and I am, but I'm also inspired by people. There's stories there. I mean, I'll tell you a story about, I was at Gasparilla doing what I do, talking to people, answering questions, when I saw this beautiful girl. She was pale, 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 white hair, almost albino. And I ran. At this point, we were still in Curtis Hicks, and I ran, we have the one hill I had to run. And I went to grab her, and I realized she was probably 12. And I was like, "Oh, do you have a mother?" And she was like, "Yeah, she's right there." And I realized that I had to shoot her. And she inspired so much work from me. Her mother was like, "Oh, she's a ballet dancer. She's all these things." And I can just share her now, but this is her. And this piece wouldn't exist without Gasparilla. This is called Pathway. And look how gorgeous she is, but so inspiring. And when I see people, sometimes I'm just hit with images. And sometimes they come as a dare. I had another person come into my booth, and they asked me if I ever shoot Alice pieces. And I was like, no, I don't really. Sometimes I usually do my own stories. And then I went home and I drew 13 Alice pieces. So usually it's people, music. I dream a lot of things. I'm what they call a lucid dreamer. So I talk to myself in my sleep. One of my pieces that was pulled for jury for Gasparilla was a dream. I could see it clear as day, like a movie. So sometimes I wake up and I just start sketching or writing in the middle of the night. It just is one of those things. So I'm inspired by everything around me.
I think what a lot of people don't know if they're by your booth is that each of your pieces has a story. So would you share a little bit about some of your stories, some of your favorite pieces?
Yeah, I would love to. So I'll start out with The Promise. I have to back up because she's a little bit big. So this is The Promise. I'm like ducking underneath. So this is I had 25 dancers this day. And so if you think about angels like a class, like they came like in a high school class. So they all were told that they were angels. They could be unhappy angels, dark angels, and super sweet angels. It didn't matter to me. I didn't want to know. So what happened was I basically, hold on, let me set that down so I can think and talk at the same time. So I set them in a circle and I said, okay, so today I'm taking you away from everything you know. Imagine, I'm going to say to you, if I knocked on your door and I said, we're leaving right now. You're going to be going to the happiest place you've ever been, but I'm taking you right now and no one's going to be sad. It's just going to be a beautiful, happy thing. And I took you. What would your reaction be? Would your reaction be, but wait, I have a cake in the oven? Or, yay, I get to go somewhere new? would it be like, oh, but I have to tell my friend, I have to tell my mom, hold on. What would your reaction be? So I let them all have that minute, and then I let them have the reaction. And I said, don't tell me, show me. So in that image, she's comforting, and I'll show it to you again in a second. She's comforting her lion. And the reason that it's called the promise is because she's been with that lion since he was little. And she's always promised him that when she leaves, he can come with her. But she's just found out she's going home early. And so she's trying to comfort him and remind him that she'll come back for him. She's promising. So that's kind of the meaning behind this piece. So that's why
Beautiful.
promise. And if you look, these little houses are all their memories together. She gets to take home with her. And all the little houses will have writing on them, and some of them will say like "forget me not," and it's just, it's one of those things. It's like if you go through the whole series of images, like I have another where she's jumping up for lightning and she can't leave, and it's called Grounded, and essentially like she wants to leave. She's one of those ones that's like, get me out. And she's not allowed to leave until she lets go of everything. So they all have their little reasons, if you will, of why. So that's that one. I can hear some happy with you. That one's heavy. Sorry. I'll share some happy with you. So this one is called Chip Chop, and if you've never been to the Bach Tower, it's an amazing space, and they always are so supportive of artists coming in and doing whatever. Well, not whatever, don't do whatever, but shooting on the grounds. So this is Chip Chop, and she's, if you can see, she's chopping all the square bushes that are down by the mansion. And the little poem that goes with it is, she chipped and she chopped until she was done, and all of the trees were square just for fun. With her hair colored gold and her dress colored blue, she lived in that tower until 22. So I try to write little poems that go with them. And usually my booth has stories, or I'll just spout poetry off at you. But it's fun. Like I'll do this one. Like this one actually will be on the Tampa Theater this weekend for Gasparilla. So you guys have the pretty wraps around the outside this year. But this one's little poem is, she drank them all, it was worth the fall. Potato. She has all these little potions at her feet. So it's a little nonsensical. But yeah, usually I'm like throwing poetry at people and making them laugh or sob. The promise usually gets people around in a circle holding hands that never met, and they cry, which is awesome. I love it when that happens.
So being that this year, I know you're a people person and that you weren't able to be around everybody this year, how has that impacted your work?
Oh, Lordy, help me.
I'm sorry.
So, so as you know, because you were the one that was standing with me talking about Gasparilla last year, the wind was blowing, it was beautiful, and we were talking about this little thing that was happening, a virus that we didn't know what it was going to be, and that ended up being my last show, and I haven't had another since. So that it's a little surrealistic to think like I haven't been shooting, I've barely worked, and I was listening to the video that all the artists were talking about how it's impacted them, and I actually cried, because it's great to know that you're not alone in the up and the down. Some days I'm super inspired to create. Some days I shut down and I can't think of anything and I don't know what to do with myself. So I have pivoted a little bit. I have been sketching things that maybe don't have people, or trying to figure out ways now that we have a little bit of freedom to come back to shooting, and I have been sketching. So I mentioned the show at Alchemy and Ashes, which was Ashes to Ashes. And I launched a tea very quietly. I didn't mean to. Um, and this pandemic has allowed me to do that. So morbid curiosity is a thing now because I had time at home where I would never have had time to create something I would never have had time to create because I was always on the wheel of these guys, which is the beautiful world. I just couldn't be in it. Um, so I think you're drinking this one, but so this is morbid, and as you can see, my artwork is still prevalent, and I'm able to shoot maybe skeletons that aren't breathing and things like that. Like he can't give me COVID, this little guy. So I'm able to create those kind of things and plan for when we are able to come out. They say after the plague is a renaissance. And I truly believe that. Like, I believe when we're all set free, there's going to be so much art and so much beauty, and people are going to be re-inspired. Even if you kind of fell in a hole, if you weren't one of those great, lucky people that were inspired by being locked down, then maybe we might be able to come out of this and have a new perspective and create things maybe we wouldn't have because we've been inspired and holding on to it all this time.
So this has forced you to rethink your career a little bit, come out of your comfort zone. Do you have some new goals?
I always have new goals. I'm one of those people that likes to live right outside the bubble of the comfort zone because I believe that's where beauty is. So I am one of those people that builds their wings on the way down. My friends joke like I'll just jump and figure it out. So I definitely feel like the thing that I've learned from pandemic is it's actually okay to be still. I'm not going to die from being still, which has been really hard for me because I'm a doer. I'm like 5 plates spinning, love to be everywhere at one time kind of a girl. I was forced to grow tomatoes and not create, which was, if you know me, I have 5 voices in my head at any given time and you can talk to any of them. So being forced to be still has been great and it has allowed me to draw and write more, and be a little, think about things a little harder than I usually do. And it actually, weirdly enough, and again, I'm not trying to be super serious, but whenever I lost my grandmother, I lost several friends from pandemic, and it does make you wonder, like, how do you keep from being, they say that, most people die with the song still left in them, and I thought about it. What would you be upset that you didn't get done? And it was my book, which was in my priority list of goals, was last because it was the thing for me. So that's the takeaway. Like, don't put what you want last. Why was that below all the list of things? That was eye-opening for me.
I'm waiting for that book.
I know. This is Bella. And I think I told you after Gasparilla last year, I had a little girl come into my booth and I do the writing on my walls. And it's lovely to have people come in and read them out loud because I only get to hear my voice read them. So it shows when people are reading them. It's great. And I had a little girl, her mother was reading Bella's plaque off the wall. And I was watching them. I was kind of sneak watching, around the side of the booth. And she got to the very end of the plaque and she said she was done. And the little girl said, well, what happens? And she goes, well, honey, I don't know. That's all it says. And she caught me looking and said, what happens? Do you know what happens? And I was like, oh, yeah, yes, I do. And I had to go explain to her what happened. And I felt called out. And then they were like, well, where's the book? And I was like, oh, I guess I should write that. Like, it hadn't completely occurred to me. So that night was a Saturday night. I came home, I went to sleep, And I was woken up at 3 o'clock in the morning with she looked and she listened, tried not to be lured. When dealing with mermaids, you have to be sure. And my brain went, really, at 3 o'clock in the morning, you have Gasparilla tomorrow and pack out? You're going to be exhausted. And I was like, I woke up with my phone. Okay, we're going to whisper this out in the 3 o'clock in the morning. And my husband was like, what are you doing? I'm exhausted. And I'm like, she looked and she listened. Like telling my phone to remind me that I had this great epiphany because of this little child that had come into my booth and called me out.
And she's waiting on that book too.
I know.
What advice or wisdom do you have to share with aspiring artists?
Oh gosh. Okay. So I love this question. So, learn all the things. So in my world, I'll talk about my world. If you're an aspiring photographer, graphic designer, first thing I'm going to tell you is learn all the things. Like video, I wish I had understood like some of the jobs that were in my career. No one really, they do now, but when I was young, nobody told me that cinematography was a thing. I would have been an amazing cinematographer. No one told me that I could write books. And honestly, even in my high school, I was on yearbook and newspaper. I was a writer and I never did photography. And she said, it's a good thing you'll never be a photographer because you suck at it. True story. And so I didn't pick up photography again for 6 years. So, I like to throw myself at all kinds of things. And also, when you find something that makes you excited, ride the wave of excitement. Don't put it off. Ride that wave. Find people around you that know how to do what you're doing and ask for help. I help people all the time. I have young artists that don't even do photography or digital work that draw, that come and sit in my office and talk to me about their journey, and I help them. I mentor them. There are people out there that will help you. Ask for help.
So in the chat, somebody had asked about your work requires a lot of computer programs. How did you learn to do that in your art?
Sure. So my work actually only requires one computer program, and I would even challenge that. So I used to do surrealistic work without a computer. I was a film shooter. So there's that. But to answer that question, Photoshop is my primary. Painter, I always really want to learn, but I'm so proficient in Photoshop at this point. It's time consuming and takes me away from other things. I have to learn it really slow. I learned Photoshop before there were a lot of places to learn it. I lived literally in Amish country. There was no colleges, nowhere I could go. So I sat on it and learned it like just by trial and error and crying a lot. Don't recommend that. So there's a place called Creative Live that does free. They are amazing. So it's literally just creativelive.com. But honestly, there's Professional Photographers Association. They teach Photoshop classes. I have taught for them. There's a lot of organizations now. If you just type in learning, and obviously YouTube is amazing, but my number one tip to learn Photoshop is to put an image in it and change it 3 totally different ways. But honestly, there's so much online now. You can learn so many things so quickly, and those 2 websites will really help. And I cried a lot. Don't be afraid to cry and kick things.
I'd like to bring up your event me page and show everyone what you have out there and then how to reach you.
Okay, let's do it.
There we go. There's your site. And there's Alice. Not Alice. Scroll down. And so here is your page, and you have some of the products on here for sale are ones that you just showed us. Salt, Promise, a few others. And then how do we reach you? Tell us about how to find you.
Yeah, so there's on here, there's a little way that you can message me for sure. And I'll answer. That's the coolest way to reach me is through the Aventi app. But I mean, I'm here to answer questions that way at any time. And you can go through my website too, which is just my name, lissahatcher.com. Easy as pie.
Thank you.
I'm super easy to find.
Thank you so much. Any parting words for our listeners today?
Of course. I would like to remind people that there is art collectors in training that I have actually donated to for children between ages of 6 and 14. It's an amazing program. Check that out. If you're an artist that has never done an art show and you're interested in that, the Emerging Artist program that Gasparilla has is on the Gasparilla Arts page, and it's life-changing. I've steered a few people that direction in my lifetime. Like it's been so long. So there's a lot of really great programs for artists and children, and hopefully next year we'll be back in person so we get to have them in person again. But if you want to be part of next year's festival and you're an artist that has never done this kind of thing before, then definitely check out Emerging Artist for sure. And I would also like to add that we're super thankful as artists for all of the crew and the sponsors and everybody else for keeping art in the forefront of people's minds. We haven't gone anywhere. We're still here. We're still creating. And we still want our art to bring people joy. And I have myself delivered pieces to people during the pandemic and had them picked up off of porches, and people have been so happy. And if we're going to be trapped in our house, we might as well be trapped with pretty things. So I'm super thankful for everybody that has made this festival go on, even though we can't be there in person.
Well, we missed you here. Next year, hopefully we'll see you again.
Yes, I totally miss it. And it's pretty outside now. See, I told you it wouldn't rain all day.
I'll have to go check in with Dennis and see what he says about our weather.
Yes, you should. He's great. He knows what's going on. He has the scoop.
Thank you so much for your time today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.